Hello, guys, and welcome to Rise. Today we have Debra Poneman, and she's an internationally renowned success expert, sought after speaker, seminar leader, and best-selling author. Since 1982, Debra has empowered tens of thousands of people around the world to live the life of their dreams by providing step-by-step system to create both financial abundance and true and unshakable success and happiness. Hello, Debra. Welcome to the Rise Summit.
Thank you for inviting me. I've been so looking forward to being with you and your audience. So here we are.
Yeah, so this whole summit, we talk about transforming trauma, but really on the other side of it, what we really want is a life that feels good, that is aligned with what we are here to do, and that is also successful in every possible way and abundant. So I'm super excited to dive into your topic and really see how we can deliver the audience with some tools, some direction on how to create that life.
Yes. Well, you want me to tell you my journey, how I got there?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. Well, for the decade of the 70s, and I was a full-time meditation teacher. And you can calculate how old I am. I actually became a meditation teacher exactly 50 years ago in May of 1972. 50 years ago, I became a TM teacher. Yes, and then I taught thousands of people meditation. It's what I did full time. But at the end of the decade of the 70s, I realized that people do not live by mantra alone, and I needed to make some money. So I thought, okay, I want to make a lot of money really fast. How do people make a lot of money? And I thought they sell investments. So I left the meditation community that I was living in at the time. I was actually in Fairfield, Iowa. At that time, I was the director of admissions at Maharishi International University. And I said, I got to leave. I got to make a lot of money so I could come back and not worry about, because all we got was a tiny stipend. So I thought, okay, people make a lot of money in LA, so I'm going to move to LA. So I moved to LA, and you know that expression, we make plans and God laughs. Well, God had a big old laugh about me making money selling investments. I was a dismal failure, but we know there is no such thing as failure. You just learn what you shouldn't be doing. And I shouldn't be selling investments. However, we're always led by the divine. We think we're in charge, and we're so not. So here I am in LA, and now I'm not only broke, but I'm more than broke, because I'm paying rent. At least when I was in Fairfield, Iowa, I was staying at the college housing. And one day, one of my colleagues at this investment firm I was working for invited me to the Learning Annex to go with him to a program on money. And I thought it was going to be on how I could be better at selling investments. But I walk in, and it's all the new age crowd. It was like 1980, 1981, around then. And the guy was talking about the law of attraction. Who heard of that in 1980, 1981? And he said that we are like tuning forks, and however we're vibrating, that's what we attract into our lives. And how do we vibrate? We vibrate by our thoughts. So if we're always thinking negative thoughts, and he was talking about money, I'll never get out of debt, I'll never be wealthy, my parents weren't wealthy, I'm just like them, money is the root of all evil. If we're vibrating like that, then the only thing that we could be a vibrational match to is more poverty and pushing money away. And he said, whatever your financial situation is, what he wanted us to talk about were the good times that were yet to come. He said that when we walk down the street and we see somebody driving past in a Mercedes, instead of saying, oh, I'll never have a car like that, or, oh, rich people suck. Or we say, that's for me. He even told us to go to Beverly Hills and walk down the street. And he also said that what we should do is when we see rich people, we wish them even more success and prosperity. He quoted from Reverend Ike, who said, don't curse the rich people or you'll never be one of them. So I just totally embraced everything that this guy said, because every cell in my body was vibrating with the truth. He also said a way to become wealthy and successful was to help other people become wealthy and successful. And he also talked about trauma. He said, if you're depressed, if you're unhappy, if you're traumatized, the quickest way to get out of trauma is get out of yourself, stop thinking about yourself, and go do something for somebody else. Do random acts of kindness, go volunteer, lift other people up, and you will spontaneously be lifted up. He said, if you want to be wealthy, mentor other people, help them become wealthy. It was so rich, and it completely changed my life. And I went home that night and I realized, actually it was the next morning, I woke up and I realized that's what I want to do with my life. That's why I came to LA. It wasn't to make a bunch of money and go back and teach meditation. It was to be at that event. And I just followed the breadcrumbs, move to LA, sell investments. I when my intuition told me that, I didn't say, oh, how can I possibly get to LA? I'm broke. I figured out a way, because that was what my intuition was saying. Go there, make some money there. And so I started studying the great masters of success and prosperity: Napoleon Hill, Wallace Wattles, Florence Scovel Shinn, Catherine Ponder, Emmett Fox, Science of Mind. And I realized that there is this whole body of knowledge on how to create a life you love. Financially, career-wise, everything, that it was there, that it had already been discovered and recorded by these great masters. So what I did is I spent months studying everything, and there was no internet. I had to go to the library and use what they used to call microfiche. You're too young to remember microfiche, but it was these little slides you had to put in a little slide reader, because they were pictures of newspaper articles. Anyway, and I put together this seminar and I called it Yes to Success. And it took me about 6 months. But there were steps, because then within a few years, my seminars are being taught all over the world. And I was on TV shows from coast to coast, and it was a phenomenon. But I do have other steps that I could share with people as to how I was able to create that phenomenon. You want me to share some of those steps?
Yes, I think everyone wants you to. Yes.
Okay, very good. The first thing is that when an idea comes to you, it's a gift to you from the God of your understanding, right? I say that because I use the word God. If you want to use spirit, source, creative intelligence, you just substitute, but I'm going to use the word God. I believe that God has things that need to be done on the planet. So God looks down and says, this is a perfect person to become a career coach. This is a perfect person to go to chiropractic school and start a chiropractic practice in Santa Fe. This is a perfect person to become a stock advisor, whatever it is, because all of these things need to be done for the world to work. This person would be great to open a gluten-free bakery. And we also are given the skills to do that. I couldn't open a gluten-free bakery. I can't bake if my life depended on it. But some people have that natural tendency. And then the creator whispers in their ear, open a gluten-free bakery. It's the need of the time. Will you do that for me? Because God has no hands but yours. God can't come down and open a gluten-free bakery and, start kneading the dough and put up the signage. So God picks a worthy candidate. And so many of us, we get that impulse of what we're supposed to do and we don't do it. And then years later, we see somebody else who's very successful. We're like, I was going to do that. Yeah, but you didn't. Right? You had first dibs, as we say, but, God needed it done. So I had to go pick somebody else to do it. But in the meantime, so what I did, because I had that whisper in my ear, start a seminar company, I used what I learned as I was studying these great masters to create my own success. So one is an idea comes to you because it wants to be manifested by you. You're the vehicle for that idea. And that's why we all have different ideas. The second is when you have your idea, our tendency is to go around and tell everybody about it. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this. I'm going to write a book on this. And what happens is that all the great masters say, what is sacred must be kept secret. Secret and sacred come from the same root. Because what happens is when you go around telling everybody what you're going to do, you're much less likely to do it for many reasons. One is that you could bump up against the discouragement committee. Usually it's your partner or your parents or your friend. Oh, no, there's so many. Maybe you want to speak on leadership. Oh, there's so many people doing podcasts on leadership. So that's all we need is another podcast on leadership. So you share your idea when it's a tiny seed. Boom, it's crushed. Never to grow because it never even got a chance to germinate because you didn't keep it secret. You didn't keep it warm and safe inside and allow it to germinate. The other reason is every time you tell somebody what you're going to do, it's like letting the steam out of a kettle. Let that steam build up. Don't tell anybody until it can burst forth into your idea. But every time you tell somebody and they say, oh, even if they say, wow, that's a good idea, it's like, yeah, it sure is. Well, pressure's off for a while because people think it's a good idea. No, keep it inside until it has to burst forth in that manifestation. And then when you tell people what you're going to do, but you've already taken some steps, it's no longer a little seed, it's a strong, healthy plant. And if the discouragement committee shows up and they tell you all the reasons why it won't work, well, you've already taken steps. And I also recommend you take a step from which there's no turning back. I was in my 20s. I was broke. I had no experience in my life except teaching meditation and being an administrator at a meditation university. So I had to take a step from which there was no turning back. So you know what I did? I rented a room at the Santa Monica Public Library and I went around putting up posters. Because once I had set up the lecture, then there was no turning back. And when I put up the posters, the discouragement committee showed up, told me why it wasn't going to work, but there was no turning back. The publicity was already out. That's what we did in the 1980s. We put up posters. There was no internet. So I had to do it. And so I went to the Santa Monica Public Library and sure enough, there was standing room only. And that was the beginning. So an idea comes to you because it's supposed to be manifested by you. What is sacred must be kept secret and take a step from which there's no turning back. Those are three principles that will help you get going.
Love it. I love your energy. I mean, can you feel her passion talking about this topic? And it sounds amazing. And very valuable. I love these steps, secret and sacred. I never heard that before, and I think it's so, so important. You're absolutely right.
I'll add something to this. People say, oh, you have to share your idea, and then people will hold you accountable. No one's going to hold you accountable. They're too busy going around telling everybody what they're going to do that they're not going to do because they're sharing it too much. You're the one that has to hold you accountable. I mean, if you have somebody that you have to share it with because you need an investor or something like that, but still make sure your ducks are in a row. Make sure you are committed to your vision because the discouragement committee comes in all shapes and sizes. So I would say, and the other thing about, people will hold you responsible. When you have an idea and it's your life's passion, that it's a gift and there will be roadblocks on the way. It's not smooth sailing all the way. I'll promise you that. It's just not, because we were born into this playground called life, we wouldn't have even been born if we weren't going to have challenges. We come into life to learn the lessons that we learned going towards our goals, going towards our dreams. But what many of us do at the first sign of a roadblock or a discouragement, we think, oh, I guess I wasn't supposed to do it. No, I always say, thank you, God, for the roadblock, because when you have gratitude, not only for the good in your life, but you also have gratitude for the seeming not so good, then the better reveals itself, right? It's like the creator isn't, first of all, the creator isn't a trickster and says to you, I'm going to give you this idea, but I'm not going to give you the means to accomplish it. No, in the seed of your idea is everything you need to accomplish that. The creator isn't mean. The creator isn't going to give you a dream without giving you the means to fulfill it, but you got to take action. People say, oh, did you visualize your success? Yeah, and I also worked my butt off, right? And I overcame a lot of obstacles. I love what Jim Carrey says. Jim Carrey, the famous actor, somebody said to him, I heard that you visualized. Did you visualize your success? And that's why you're so successful. And he tells the story about how he wrote himself a check for $1 million. And he wrote in the memo, for your box office smashing film, or something like that. And he said, yeah, I visualized myself being number one at the box office. Yeah, I visualized myself being a superstar. But then I worked my ass off. He said, I didn't just go and eat a sandwich. So you got to do both. Definitely visualize. That's the first step. See yourself in possession of your dream and use all of your senses when you visualize. It's not just, I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a bestseller, I'm a bestseller. No. Yeah, how I visualize, like people say, oh, did you visualize when you went into the Santa Monica Public Library that the room would be full? Yeah, I did. But it wasn't like the room will be filled, the room will be filled. No, there's no emotion behind that. How I visualize myself going into that room, looking out on the audience, my heart connecting to their hearts, those people feeling so much gratitude for what I am about to give them, and me feeling so much gratitude that I could play a part in changing their lives. Before I come on an interview like this, I do the same thing. I ask God to bring the perfect people to my audience that need to hear this message, and may their lives be transformed. It's not like, may they like me so they come to Yes to Success. No, may their lives be transformed. And then I have incredible gratitude for being a vehicle in the path of their transformation.
Thank you. I feel you and I resonate with everything you said. And I love how you talked about roadblocks. And I really, the essence of the message of the summit is that even our traumas and our challenges are there for a reason, because they are creating who we are to be, diving into the depth of our emotions and experiences so that we can become fuller, bigger in our capacity to also rise to the heights of our achievements and our successes. We have to have both and have that balance. And, sometimes the lessons are really there to teach us, to expand into our forgiveness, into our compassion, into our wisdom. And without those experiences, we would not have that. And so, a quote that I like to use is that it is through processing our life experiences that we get the keys to unlock the doors of our inner brilliance. And I really feel that life is supporting us to do that work so that we can fulfill our destiny and we can impact other people in whatever we choose to do. There is no right or wrong. There's many, many ways. But we always get those, either soft whispers or loud shouts that really wants us to align with our path, with our gifts that only we have because of our life journey, that only we can bring forth in the way we can, express God through it. So
yeah. Yes. And there's so many things I could say about that. It's like, people think that these blocks are obstacles on our path, on our growth. No, that is your growth. That's the gift. And we say, oh, why am I not getting this thing? Why is this not happening? I always say, whenever you ask for something, the Creator will give you one of three answers. Yes, here it is. Not yet. Be patient. Or I love you too much to give this to you. Right? So we're not going to get everything that we want. Right. But I also believe that we can't do spiritual bypass and just say, oh, it's all perfect. No, you feel the pain. You breathe into it, and you ask what that pain is there to teach you. And it's almost always, like you say, it's there to teach you a lesson on it's all spiritual growth. Sure, we have companies, sure, we write books, but it's really all for our spiritual growth. We are just here on a spiritual path. Whether or not you think of yourself as a spiritual person, you are on a spiritual path. And a spiritual path means growing to be the greatest human you can be. You don't have to use the word spiritual. So every time there's an obstacle, you can feel the pain. You could breathe into the pain. You could locate it. And it's okay to scream and yell, not at another person, pound a baseball bat. Why is this happening to me? And then when you settle down, then really do ask, what is the lesson here? And it's always a gift. It's always a gift. And it's always a gift to bring us to our next level of growth. But and I said this before, if we say, thank you, God, for this obstacle, thank you. We can have a big obstacle on our path to our spiritual growth. And then we realize, oh my gosh, I was going in the completely wrong direction. If this obstacle hadn't happened, I would have spent another 2, 3, 4 years going in the wrong direction. Thank you for this obstacle, because it made me course correct. And now I'm going in the right direction. But when you curse the obstacle, you don't get the lesson from it. So we always say, thank you, God, for whatever obstacle it is. And then the knowledge, the learning, the course correction will just present itself to you. Can I tell you a quick story about that? Yeah, so I was living in Chicago, and I had just gotten divorced, and we lived in this big, beautiful house, but I decided I wanted him to keep the house because, it's the snow shoveling and the roof repairs. And during the summer, it's all the gardening and the gardeners. And it's just like, you know what? You keep the house. I'm going to go live in a little apartment. And also I was like, I'm going to go live with the people. So I rented this apartment with no garage. I live in Chicago, no garage, and in a kind of a busy area of the city. So then the winter comes along, and sometimes I had to park 3 or 4 blocks away. And in Chicago, it could get 20, 30 below with the wind chill. Okay. So imagine that. So one day I am having to park 3 blocks away. It's 30 below with the wind chill, maybe 20 below. And I'm carrying groceries down the street, and the wind is whipping. It was so bad that my eyes started tearing, and then my lids froze shut because it was they iced over, and I'm trying to open my eyes. Really true story. And I'm carrying the groceries, and as I'm doing it, I'm going, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, because the way I live is I thank for everything. And as I'm walking, trying to open my eyes, trying to carry these groceries, I get to my place. Thank you, God, knowing there must be a gift in it. And by the time I got to my door, I thought, why am I living in Chicago? The thought never occurred to me before. Instead of, why is this happening? Because you contract and no knowledge could come to you while you're contracted. But I'm like, thank you, God, while my lids are frozen shut. And I lived in California 6 weeks later. True story.
Beautiful, so beautiful. I love this story, and I so resonate with you on that trust. You know, I also in a place where I trust that everything is perfect. It's just orchestrated in a way that I might not see from where I am, but I'm trusting that it is for the highest good of my evolution. Maybe not my ego, maybe not my immediate needs or wants, but I know that there's a bigger plan. And so I also, as you say, receive everything as a blessing. And even if I can't see what it is now, and only from a distance, I can look back and say, oh, okay, now I know why this has happened, because otherwise that and that and that and that and that would not be happening. So
Nunaisi, you said it so beautifully. You said, maybe not for my ego, but for the highest good and for my life's plan. I just got goosebumps. I mean, it's that what you just said. If the listeners could just get everything, Byron Katie says, everything happens for you, not to you. And if we just get that one concept that everything is a gift, everything, and you can have a happy life if you can actually embrace that. It's your choice. Do I look at everything as a gift, or do I look at everything as, why me? And this isn't fair. But if you look at it as a gift, the greater and greater gifts will always reveal themselves to you. It's your ego that gets in the way, just as you said, of seeing the beautiful gift in everything.
Right. And the other thing is, and you as a meditator, I'm sure you know it, is that when you learn to sit in the essence of your being, and there is a storm that happens on the periphery, on the outside, you can still find that quiet place inside, regardless of what is happening outside. And this is another way to move through those storms and through those uncomfortable situations and events in life that do happen and will happen, because life is not it's not just a smooth path. It's got bumps and ups and downs, and will always have. But when you find that surrender in place within, and you can rest in it, then you just know this too will pass.
This too will pass. And there's you probably know the hugging saint, Amaji. She says that at this time that spiritual practice, especially meditation, is so essential. This beautiful quote, she said, we must cling to our spiritual practices at this time so that when the world shakes, we remain unshakable. And while the world is shaking so much, we really have to cling to our spiritual practices. And our spiritual practices are the foundation to our growth. It's like if we're trying to build a building of success, prosperity, fame, fortune, but there's no foundation, it's going to crumble. But our spiritual practices, our meditation, our whatever we do, our breath practices, mindfulness, whatever you do, that's your foundation. And that is the most important thing to do every day. It's not, writing the letter to the editor, doing the PR. It's doing your spiritual practices, establish that foundation, and then the building can be built. And even when there are storms and hurricanes and tornadoes and floods, if you have a strong foundation, you're not going to be blown over.
Absolutely. Agree. And I am all for starting in the morning. So having a morning routine, because I really feel that although you can meditate at any time of the day or do other practices, but starting the day with that intention, with that clarity, with that, it really sets the tone of the day. And I'm advocate of doing that morning routine. I do my meditation and gratitude every single morning. And this is really the single thing that helps me to run a business, run a family. I've got 3 kids, do everything that I do. The other day, my boy is nearly 18 and he told me, Mom, you are phenomenal. How do you do all that you do? And I told him, you know what, my boy, I'm no one special. I just do the work. I do my meditation daily. That's it.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. I just have to tell you a story about my boy because now I live in, I actually had to move back. I moved back to Chicago again for 3 years. And now I'm back in California again. And my boy, who is 30, came to visit me. And I said, when we had to go out in the morning, he said, Mom, I'm not leaving until I do my meditation. I went, yes. I was like, okay, I did it. And it wasn't like we can't leave until you do. It was from his side. He would not leave until he did his meditation first. I said, okay, Mom, pat on the back.
Pat on the back, Mom. And yeah, my boy's also he's turning 18 in September and he's doing meditation every day. In fact, right. I said Vipassana when I was pregnant with him. So I really feel that this is in his makeup. So yeah, well done, because I know that this is such a precious gift that I gave him, that ability to be so well-rounded with his feelings and emotions. And yeah, he's just amazing.
Yeah, I'll tell you something else about success principles. When our kids were young, well, I'll just talk about my son for a minute. One time my husband and I went out and we were, I'm now divorced, but I'm really, 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 really good friends with my former husband, Fred. But when we were married, we were going out and then we were going to go to dinner and a movie. And when then we decided, let's not go to a movie. Let's just go home. And when we came home, the house was filled with kids. Daniel was having a party because he thought we were going to be gone the whole night. And it was rowdy. And it was, so everybody, they ran when we came home. And people, I say, well, do you punish your kids? I mean, how do you discipline your kids? And we said, well, number one, you have to clean up so that the house looks exactly the way it looked when we left. And the other thing we said, and your punishment is you have to read the 7 Habits of Highly Successful Teens, annotate it, and give us a book report. And if we like the book report, then you could go out again. So you could do it today. You could take a week, but no going out with your friends until you read the book and give us a book report. And he said that was one of the moments that changed his life. He read that book by Stephen Covey, and he realized that there was a formula for being successful. So we could go on and on about our kids, right?
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can.
Yeah. And Daniel, obviously, he's 30. He's launched. He has a very successful company and a very successful nonprofit. And he said that learning those success principles was a turning point in his life. Wow. And also you said, your son said, Mom, how do you do it? One of the proudest moments of my life was a friend of mine, or a woman that I know, said to Daniel, my son's name is Daniel, you're so successful at such a young age. Was it because your mother was always quoting to you from Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Florence Shinn? And he said, no, actually, I don't think my mother ever quoted to me from Napoleon Hill. He said, I think I'm successful because I watched the way my parents lived their lives. And at that moment, I thought, okay, That's it. I could die right now and be happy. But I think when we talk about the young ones, it's like your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So just like your son said, Mom, how do you do it? You do your meditation. You're a great mom. You have this business. You bring knowledge to the world. They watch you. It's not you talk about that you should do meditation. You talk about you should do something to contribute to the world. You're doing it. And that's how our kids become great human beings.
Absolutely. It's, that do what I say, but don't do what I do does not work, right? So they watch beyond the words, they watch the actions, and they know nobody knows better than your kids, because they know your blind spots. They know you back, front, middle, inside out, right?
That is so true. And they're like, yeah, right, Mom. Like if you're off like a little bit, you can't get away with it. They're like the honesty police. They're the integrity police.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Debra, this was so much fun. I really utterly enjoyed our conversation. Our time is coming to a close. So is there any takeaway you want to leave the audience with?
Well, let's see. Well, can I tell one more quick story?
Sure. I love your stories.
Okay, 2 minutes. So another part of my story is after my seminar started being taught all over the world, I had reps, and actually South Africa was one of the places where I had reps, in Israel, and then when my daughter was born, my first wonderful child was born, I decided, because my husband was doing very well in his business, that I could give it up, I decided that I wanted to be a mom at home. And it was actually when my daughter was born, I took one look at her and I thought, well, I teach people to follow their passion, and this is my passion. So I gave up my career and I decided to become a mom at home. And there I remained actually for 21 years. But people always ask me if I ever doubted my decision. And I'm just going to tell you this one story of when I doubted my decision, because I think it will really help people. So one day the kids were about 2 and 5, and they were really out of sorts, and they wanted to watch TV. So I said, okay, I'll put you in front of the TV. Usually I didn't put them in front of the TV, and they wanted to watch Barney. So I put them on the couch and I'm looking for Barney. And as I'm looking for Barney, I see one of my Yes to Success students on Oprah. And not only was he on Oprah, but he was teaching Oprah this exercise about the power of the mind that he had learned in one of my seminars, which was fine, because when I retired, I said, take this information, teach it to the world. You don't have to give me credit. But here I am with these 2 whiny kids on the couch, and here he is on Oprah, and Oprah's going, oh my God, this is so amazing. So I promptly burst into tears and think that I had ruined my life. And, oh my God. But it's good, because my kids stop whining, because all of a sudden there's mommy standing in front of the TV crying hysterically. And the only thing that brought me out of my self-imposed pity party was when my little girl, Deanna, she goes, Mommy. And I say, yes, sweetheart. She goes, I think you forgot our popsicles. So I said, yes, I did. So I found Barney and I went into the kitchen and I'm mad at God. Why did this, it's one of those moments. Why did this happen? He has a best-selling book. I have these 2 whiny kids. And I had this image of, all of a sudden, it was like God spoke to me and showed me an image of a book. And it was a book about a man who had died and came back. In his journey, when he was on the other side, he said that when he got there, this being of light said, would you like to see the highlights of your life? And it was a very short, like a movie reel. It just showed him showing his son how to swing a baseball bat and dancing with his daughter at her wedding. And the man is like, well, what about when I brought my company public? What about when I made my first million? What about when I opened the factories in Japan? And the being of light said, all of those moments glorified you. And then the being of light said, would you like to see the life of somebody else who just passed over? And he said, yes, I would. and these curtains of golden light part. And there on a throne of golden light is the lady who used to clean his house, who used to take 2 or 3 buses just to be able to clean his toilets. And the being of light said, you know, you judged her as a very pathetic creature, but she had a glorious life. Would you like to see the highlights of her life? And he said, yes. And it showed her carrying a pot of soup to a sick friend. It showed her comforting a child who had been bullied. It showed her stroking her mother's hair and expressing her love as her mother was dying. It showed her, you know, just going to church and hugging everybody up and saying, how you doing today? And then the being of light said to the man, when you get here, you find out that the only thing that matters while you're on earth is how much love you give. So I just went back on the couch and put my arms around my babies. And first I put the popsicles, you know, the orange juice popsicles into the freezer. And I just watched Barney with them. And I put away Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles. I learned from my 2 greatest teachers. And of course, those are the teachers who call me mom. And those are my 2 greatest teachers to this day. And if you're an auntie or an uncle, or you have guardian children, just listen to what they tell you. And I'll tell you, you'll get it all.
So beautiful, so heart touching. And I hear you, and I totally feel you in this. My mission in life was to be a mother, and I have done everything I know to my best ability to have amazing children. And I can tell you that I do. And really, my children, you know, whenever I go with them, people always telling me, whoa, these children are phenomenal. And I know that this is my life mission. I can die tomorrow, as you said. So yeah, full power. This is really one of the most magnificent love ways to experience this journey on earth.
And also, if you're not a physical mom or a physical dad, there are so many kids out there who need love, you know, after school programs, big brother, big sister, because this is the future of our planet. And you people listening, you have so much love to give and so much wisdom to impart. And there's so many young people who are in need of you.
Well said. Thank you so much, Debra. It was such a pleasure to listen to your stories, and your vibe is just so light and contagious, really inspiring. So thank you so much for the work you're doing in the world.
And likewise, you are just gorgeous. And thank you for these amazing summits you put out. It's an honor to be a part of them.
Thank you so much. And for all of you, until the next time we meet, lots of love from me, Nunaisi, your host. Ciao now.